Violent protests are underway in Gaza again after Monday marked the deadliest day there in 4 years. The White House is blaming the border violence on the terror group Hamas. Listen.
We're aware of the reports of continued violence in Gaza today. The responsibility for these tragic deaths rests squarely with Hamas. Hamas is intentionally and cynically provoking this response. And as the Secretary of State said, Israel has the right to defend itself.
Joining me now, former legal advisor to Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, Diana Buttu. Diana, good to have you. We're on a little bit of a satellite delay, so as I try to jump in, bear with me. I don't want to make it seem like I'm interrupting you, but let me have you begin by reacting to that characterization of the horrible violence we're seeing on the border.
This is exactly what we expected, which is the U.S. and the Israelis toe-in-toe blaming victims. At every junction, Israel has had an opportunity whether to put down its snipers or to not put down its snipers, and it has deliberately chosen to kill Palestinians, including 8 children just yesterday alone, including a disabled man, all because it has the ability to do so and because nobody is stopping it. I would have expected that the United States would be second-guessing now its decision to move the embassy to Jerusalem because that is illegal. And instead, what it has done, it is clamped down alongside with Israel and saying that that Israel has the ability and, in fact, has the right to kill Palestinians when it does not. This is a clear violation of international law, and I hope that the world is going to step up and start sanctioning Israel.
Right. Well, there's obviously different views about whether it's a violation of international law, whether the rules of engagement have been actually broken. Let me ask you this. What is actually the declared goal of the March of Return on the part of Hamas?
It's not a declared goal of the part of Hamas. It's on the part of Palestinians who are living in Gaza and throughout
But
throughout
Hamas organizes the Gazans.
Simple goal.
Hamas organizes the protesters, and you know that.
Which is one simple goal. Palestinians want to return. They haven't been allowed to return to their homes for 70 years because of the fact that they're simply not Jewish. I want to get back, however, to the issue of rules of engagement.
No, hold on. I want to continue with my question. Hold on. Let me just say, excuse me, Diana. Hold on one second.
We're not allowed to simply shoot. Excuse me, I cannot hear you. We're not allowed to simply shoot people because they're standing in a protest. There has to be a clear line of threat. Not a single Israeli has been injured in this whatsoever. And so what Israel's doing is simply gunning people down.
Okay, Liz, I understand that perspective. Can you hear me now? Diana, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, but you couldn't hear me a moment ago. Because it's pretty clear.
Sorry, the line is going in and out.
Okay. I'll say this question. If you can't hear it, then we'll move on. In fact, Hamas has indicated that its declared goal is to end the Israeli state through this March of Return to reclaim all of Palestine. Is that correct?
What the goal is by the organizers, as they've said very clearly, that they simply want to be able to return to their homes. Returning to their homes is an internationally enshrined right that refugees around the world have, and that's what Palestinians want. It's been peaceful protests that have been met with where Palestinians have been gunned down by the Israelis. I simply do not understand this issue where people continue to blame the victim.
Well, I want to clarify this because to return to Palestine would be to displace Israel. Is that not the express goal of Hamas with these protests?
No, not at all. In fact, people have been saying, and Hamas has already indicated, and all the Palestinian factions have indicated, that they are willing to accept a two-state settlement. It is Israel that's never recognized Palestine's right to exist. The demand that Palestinians return to their homes is simply that, is that they want to return to their homes because they have a right to do so. It's not a question of extinguishing anybody. It's a right to return to their homes and to end this issue of Jewish privilege and Jewish supremacy. That's what this is about. The fact that Palestinians haven't been able to return to their homes is because the international community has failed them for over 70 years now.
Do you recognize, because you raised a really good point about recognizing Palestinian sovereignty and a Palestinian state, do you also recognize that Israelis have a right to return, that in fact the country of Israel is a fulfillment of that right to return to its ancient homeland and that it has a right to exist?
I'm somebody who believes that this place can and should be one state where everybody, Jews, Christians, Muslims, Druze, all of the people who are living here have equal rights and should be living in equality. I don't believe in one group having supremacy over another. This is something that I have been speaking about and writing about for years, and people have been working about
Diana,
for years.
that's not my question.
What I think we have to work against is this system of privilege. And what people are talking about when they talk about a Jewish state is simply continuing to enshrine a system of exclusive Jewish privilege.
This is not a filibuster opportunity. I'm asking you a simple question. Do you believe that Israel has a right to exist alongside the legitimate Palestinian sovereignty in a state as well?
Nobody has denied that. In fact, it's been quite the opposite. The PLO has recognized Israel's right to exist. Palestinian factions have recognized Israel's right to exist. It's quite the opposite. That Israel has never recognized my right to exist in freedom and in sovereignty. They've never recognized my right to exist in equality. It's quite the opposite.
So let me ask you one final question. Try to be, because, this is not obviously is a horrible time to think about the idea of a peace process resuming. Can you imagine a scenario in your most optimistic state where something comes out of this period, both the violence and the moving of the embassy, that can restart a process that can be constructive? Or are we in a period where that kind of process will be dormant for the foreseeable future?
I don't think that negotiations are going to resume, and I actually don't think that they're going to be the answer. I was somebody who was part of those negotiations for 25 years, and over the course of 25 years, all that we saw was the number of settlements expand, the number of settlers triple in number, to the point where there's now close to 700,000 Israelis living in the West Bank, making the idea of a two-state settlement impossible. I think that instead we should be moving down the path of recognizing what's right and what's wrong. And what's wrong is the denial of freedom, 51 years of the denial of freedom. It's time for the international community to start putting in place sanctions against Israel, rather than simply allowing Israel to do whatever it wants. This last move with the embassy has given Israel the green light and shown Israel that it has the right and has the ability to not only steal Palestinian land, but be rewarded for it. And not only steal Palestinian land, but slaughter Palestinians in Gaza and have Palestinians be blamed for their victimhood.
Right. Diana Butto, thank you for your views.
Thank you.